back, everybody.
Welcome back.
I'm Matt.
I'm Jimmy.
We're two average guys. Thanks for joining us again today on this glorious Sunday. Nice and cool outside. Fall weather's here, which is great football weather. But you know, let's talk about our Huskers yesterday. Before we do that, what I want to talk a little bit about, we talked about it before, is just football in general. You know, this time of year is where you see a lot of upsets. You see a lot of games that teams are losing that maybe you wouldn't expect them to lose.
Which is great.
Yeah, I mean, it creates a lot of just craziness in college football in the standings, which, again, you've heard us talk about standings before, and sometimes it's like, you know, when you start off in the top 10, should you really be top 10? Because, you know, eventually we find out week 7, 8 sometimes, maybe you shouldn't have been top 10 or even before that. So,
or even just preseason ranked in general. I mean,
exactly. So
you look at it at the end of the year every year, and it's way different than what the beginning was.
Always way different. So, you know, yesterday we saw some top teams fall.
Great.
We started off in the morning. You know, we had Illinois on in the morning against Minnesota. No, not top teams. Illinois is in the top 25, but
and atop the Big Ten West.
Yeah, and so now they're atop the Big Ten West along with Purdue. And they kind of wiped the floor with Minnesota, 12-point game, but really, ideally, here's the thing with Illinois and Minnesota. I'll talk about, we play both of them.
Right.
They can't pass the ball. Taylor Morgan was like 4 for 19.
He was 4 for 12, but he got hurt.
4 for 12.
He got carted off.
Either way, he's not a good start to the game. And the quarterback for Illinois is not a good passer. They rely on the run game a lot.
Right. They run the ball and play defense.
And those are two things we don't do very well. Texas barely beat Iowa State. Texas, to me, is not a top 25 team, but Kansas hung in there with Oklahoma until really the fourth quarter.
Yeah, Oklahoma obviously had a couple of rough weeks there, but they had their quarterback back yesterday, and he kind of went wild.
And let's talk about, again, another Big Ten matchup, Michigan-Penn State, which obviously was, you know, top 10 matchup, Penn State being at 10, Michigan at 5. Michigan, to me, is a team that I didn't really see being a team that was really a top 10 team. I was like, they're not that good. They're being overblown. And then what we've seen the last 2 weeks is they are very much a second half team, and they come out and really just explode.
Did you watch that game?
I watched some of that game.
I watched just about the whole thing. They looked pretty good.
They did, and that's
Penn State was fortunate to get 17 points. I mean, they got a pick 6. And
they were.
They took advantage of their opportunities, but they didn't get very many.
Michigan, the big thing against Michigan in the second half is the run game. Their run game really picks
strong.
up in the second half, very strong. It's like they get, I don't know what they're taking at halftime, what kind of power bars they're having, but they come out and they come out strong. I mean, they won that game, 41-17,
They had 2 running backs that both went like over 150 or over 125, something like
that. So 41-7,
good.
that's huge. I mean, that's a big win. TCU took down Oklahoma State. Again, Oklahoma State was number 8, TCU at 13. So Oklahoma State loses that game. That was actually
there. So yeah,
that was a really good game. I watched a good chunk of that for a Big 12 matchup. Again, you get high score, but you know, we also saw a high score in the Tennessee-Alabama game,
which is awesome.
52-49. Tennessee wins with a field goal to take out Alabama, who was ranked number 3 at the time. So and Georgia, of course.
And it was awesome. Yeah, I mean, Georgia won 55-0. They showed a stat that they won in the last 2 seasons against Vanderbilt. It's been like 150-0 or something stupid.
Yep.
But Alabama got a pretty lucky call as far as them putting seconds back onto the clock after that interception, which kind of led to them getting an opportunity to kick a field goal.
Yeah.
But they missed, and then Tennessee took advantage and got the dub. It was awesome.
There you go. Yeah, that's fantastic. Clemson struggled with Florida State. They beat Florida State by 6. Again, I don't think Clemson's really a top 5 team. In the ACC, maybe, but overall, I don't see them as really a threat to win a championship this year.
I don't think so either. I think it's Ohio State, Michigan, Tennessee, Georgia.
Yeah.
Maybe Alabama. You can still slide in there because they'll probably
still
only
a good
have
team.
one loss and
They're still a good team
when it comes down to it. But they still have a few tough games ahead of them, so we'll see.
James Madison popped in the top 25. Now they lost, and they're going to be outside the top 25 again.
To who?
Georgia Southern.
Yeah, I saw that. By 7.
Georgia Southern.
They lost by 3.
Which a lot of people like James Madison could beat Nebraska, and I'm like, not so fast. Like, look at their schedule compared to the Big Ten. It's not the same.
I do know a James Madison fan, and he used to be a an avid watcher, so I doubt he's watching today. But Ricky, I'm sorry, buddy.
So, but still, Deion's doing something special over in James Madison, and good for him. Kentucky took on Mississippi State. Mississippi State was top 16. Kentucky was 22. Kentucky had a bad loss. I think last week they lost.
Right, that's right. Yeah.
So again, that's
I'm really bad at my college football picks because I base it off of like 1 week and then
struggling.
Yeah.
And then the Utes take down USC last night. So Utah was number 20, USC number 7. They win 43-42. So again, we had a lot of really good matchups yesterday as far as rankings.
Going for 2 was gutsy. I liked it.
It was gutsy, yeah. And so I'm glad the Utah Utes won. To me, it's exciting. I think USC again. Not sure how they hopped in the top 10 just because they got a new coach and a couple new players. All of a sudden, boom, they hop up from going like 4-8 last year. So
yeah, I mean they were undefeated, but they had a couple of tough wins in that mix. At that point in time, I guess whatever undefeated teams they have up there, you know, Syracuse isn't one of them, but we'll see if they have it after yesterday.
Yep. And then not a top 25 matchup, but Notre Dame lost to Stanford at home.
I couldn't believe I didn't watch any of it. But
16-14. Just have to say that just in case Timmy's watching. But or Purdue. But tough loss for Notre Dame. Just tough season. I mean, tough start for a new coach.
Yeah, I read some stuff on Twitter about it seemed like Mark Freeman was going to be the answer after Brian Kelly jumped ship for LSU. Not saying that he's not, but he didn't really have any head coaching experience, and people were throwing out different coaches in the past that have kind of gone the same route and hasn't worked out. So we'll see what happens.
Yep.
I think the players like him. I kind of like him, but it just hasn't really worked out for him so far this year.
Yep.
They probably need to get. I know one of their quarterbacks got hurt, and their other quarterback's just not getting it done.
Yeah. Give them some time. Let's not be like Nebraska fans who want to fire a coach after a tough season. So now let's talk about our Huskers. So, kind of a rough start to the game. They go down. They score with like 10 minutes left in the first quarter. Purdue scores, then they get the ball back after we do a really bad 3-and-out. And even the guys on that are announcing the game were like, Nebraska's offense has to do something because the defense is on the field way too much. Our defense was on the field for 101 plays compared to our offense on the field for 52.
And that's the problem with, kind of, I guess it's still kind of trickled over from Frost's philosophy of, scoring fast.
Yeah.
I mean, that's awesome. I like to see 72-yard touchdown passes and stuff like that, but it doesn't give your defense much time to get rest, and especially Big Ten play, when they're just kind of dinking and dunking all game.
Dinking and dunking, I like it.
Wearing our D down and, sprinkling in a run, and they ran, they could pass, they could run, they could do whatever they wanted pretty much. We couldn't stop them.
Yeah, so here real quick, Ryan asked what is with Martinez doing so well down in Kansas State that he couldn't do here. So Dan says offensive line and coaching. I think those are two big pieces.
For sure.
And it's not because I really don't think it's because the talent around him is that much better, but the offensive line is. They have a better offensive line, and I do think the coaching is obviously better.
And
they are
probably some more pressure off of his back than he had here.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Yeah, that very well could be it. I also think, and we alluded to this, I think in his last 2 years with Nebraska, I don't think the coaches wanted him to run.
Yeah.
I think they wanted him to be more of a passer and only run when you have to. And I think
because they didn't want him to get hurt because we didn't have anything behind him.
Well, and we know what happens when he got hurt. He had to play. So I think we saw a lot of that in his last 2 years. Is his freshman year came out running like a madman on the field. He was incredible, Heisman-worthy type candidate for coming in the next year. And then we saw a little bit of sophomore year. Still, he was up there, throughout the year, his sophomore year as a potential candidate. But then junior, senior year kind of fell off, and that's because he wasn't able to kind of do his thing. And Kansas State's letting him do his thing. They're like, hey, if you need to run the ball, run the ball. We're going to call, and they can call a QB draw, and guess what? You got Ryan's going to block for him. We don't have that in Nebraska right now. We still don't have that in Nebraska where an offensive line is going to allow our quarterback time to not only throw the ball, but to run the ball.
I said before we started, I was shocked that Casey was able to have as many long throws as he had to, Palmer and whatever else, just because, he really didn't have much time. He hasn't all season.
No. No,
so I was surprised he was even able to do that. But and he had one long run that he took off and ran one. I was kind of hoping he'd do that a little bit more.
Yeah.
At least just step out of the pocket and avoid some of that pressure. And if you got to take it, take it.
Yeah, and I don't know if the coaches are saying don't run to him like they were with Martinez. I think the idea with Casey Thompson is he is more of a passer than he is a runner. And we do have quarterbacks behind him that can actually come in and play. So I don't think it's don't run. I think that's your last option is to run the ball. And so his last option is if I really do not have a way to throw the ball and I can actually take off, I'm going to. And luckily he ran 35 yards, got us in field goal position, which was fantastic.
I think maybe he should run a little bit more so he doesn't take so many hits. I know if you run the ball, you're going to get hit, unless you run out of bounds or slide. But I think it'd probably take a little pressure off of him just to run for 4 or 5 yards and dive, then throw it and maybe complete a pass, but get kind of rocked. So we'll see.
So yesterday was the first game that Ryan got to watch since Hurricane Ian took power. Oh, yikes. So we really wanted to touch on this. The fight from the team is...
it's been like that the last...
Really since Mickey's
3 games. I mean, that Oklahoma game was kind of a one-off because that was a quick turnaround after Frost getting fired. But the last 3 games, we've been down in every single one of those games, and we came back in all 3 of them. We won the first 2. We didn't win last night.
And so I was telling Jimmy, I said one thing that I've seen as far as the fight goes in this team, and they're fighting for their coaches, they're fighting for each other, they're fighting to win these games, they're not giving up. If that was, and really the last 3 games, if we saw Frost and Chenander on the sideline coaching, I still think these 2 guys on the sideline, we go into that half yesterday down 17. We don't get in field goal position. We run 3 conservative. We maybe run it 3 times, or we just take a knee, taking the half down by 17. I don't think there's any way that Frost is going to say, hey, let's try to get in field goal position, or even score a touchdown if we can before half. I just don't see that being something that Frost would have done in the past. And so that was refreshing to see. And yes, part of it was Casey getting an open run downfield where he was able to run a long ways. He got a block from Washington that gave him an extra 15 yards. So that was huge. Took 8 seconds off the clock. We had 1 short play, another timeout, kick a field goal. Boom, now we're down by 2 touchdowns, and we get the ball at half.
And we scored.
So that's huge. Again, and another thing is coming out of halftime, we were never great at coming out of halftime and scoring a touchdown.
No.
We'd be lucky to get 3.
We always scored on the first possession of the game because we had a game plan drawn up and we went boom, boom, boom and scored more often than not, which we've even done this year a bit. But then we come out to start the second half and it was like we're just playing the same game that we were playing and did not make any changes or anything. And we're doing different. We're doing different things now, and it's definitely working out. Obviously, the defense we just couldn't stop them. Their quarterback was pretty good.
McConnell's solid. I mean, he threw 400 yards.
He's right behind C.J. Stroud and J.J. McCarthy as some of the top quarterbacks in the Big Ten. One thing that you might not know this because Matt was not feeling well last night.
I missed the second half, guys. I'm sorry.
We blew 2 timeouts in the third quarter. And when it came down to it, on that last drive, we only had 1 timeout left, and we could only stop the clock once. And they got a first down, and it ended the game. So that was a little frustrating, but it was more, personnel, guys running in and out, third down, trying to make sure we have the right guys on the field. So, I mean, in the moment, I understood it. You got to do what you got to do to put yourself in a spot like we were at the end of the game, but it would have been nice to have had those timeouts.
I did see Malcolm Hartzog got another interception.
He did.
Imagine if he never got on the field. I think Carrick posted it. Imagine if he never got on the field, because I don't know if he was going to with Chenander and Frost still coaching the team.
I don't think so either.
And now he gets on the field, he's making the most of it. I love the kid. He's awesome. Like he's good in coverage. He tackles well. He's never really out of position in coverage when he needs to be there. So
and one other thing that I didn't realize until the second half was that Reimer wasn't playing.
He didn't play last game.
He didn't play last game?
He got hurt.
I thought he got hurt in the Rutgers game.
No, he got hurt in the Indiana game.
I guess I can't remember, but I didn't realize he wasn't playing because we were at an event and we were watching the game on mute. So
Yeah, I don't think he played last game.
I did not see until the second half that he was not out there. So
Yeah.
that hurt a little bit too because he's the leading tackler on the team.
I think that hurts a lot.
Definitely.
You know, one thing that we've talked about is Heinrich. You know,
he got hurt too.
He got hurt, but he just doesn't look like he has the speed that he's had.
Right.
All, like,
he was on crutches.
We're just not seeing the
game.
speed from him that we saw last year, so I don't know what's going on there. If he's been kind of sidelined with injury, if he was still coming back from being hurt or whatever, but he's not the same player he was last year. Reimer's the guy we need. We absolutely need him on defense. That hurts not having him out there. But as we're going to get to this, Ross, Quentin Newsome is he's brutal. And he doesn't tackle well. He's very much a dive and throw my arms out. You try to tackle.
So he's learning from some of the guys before.
He doesn't. And again, this is coaching, and this is something we've talked about for years now. Is we don't bump and run. We don't do coverage. We're not on top of the receivers. We play 10 yards back, which a guy like McConnell is going to easily hit a slant route. And when you got a guy that can't tackle, that's just, you're hurting already. And then they got a 37-yard touchdown on third down in the first half because of that. And it's because Newsome was playing so far back, a quick little slant, that's all it took. It wasn't a great pass. It wasn't a great play. It was a good play call because the offense coordinator was like, oh, yeah, look, they're playing 10 yards off our guys. We can do a quick slant all day. They did that all day on us.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was the biggest difference in the game. They were just so easily could move the ball down the field, run 10 plays, boom, 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 boom. Yep. The only plays they weren't connected on were the drops. I mean, a few of the stops we had were them dropping the ball. It wasn't us.
Mm-hmm. And then, of course, Newsome's in coverage. And it's like, dude, the guy dropped the ball.
Then we get the ball and have a 72-yard touchdown, and then our defense is right back out there. And they're just doing it over and over again. I mean, it wasn't really a recipe for a win, but we put ourselves in a spot to be there at the end. And, I still had that same feeling. Like, I wasn't like, what are we going to do? What play are we going to make? What mistake are we going to make?
Yeah.
And it really wasn't that. It was just we couldn't stop them and get the ball back.
Yeah.
So I still feel a lot better about the game. I mean, a one possession loss, we've had so many of those over the last several years, and it didn't hurt as much.
Yeah. Again, like you're not seeing a team that is giving up. I think
that's why.
I think we would have lost by more than one score last night with different coach.
Exactly.
I think Mickey and these coaches get the team fired up, and I think that has a lot to say with how much they believe in the guys to be successful. And we're seeing that on the field. They're fighting. Garrett Nelson. Again, Ryan mentions Garrett Nelson coming into his own. Again, we saw kind of a slow start last year. They kicked it up. This year, I think we've kind of seen that fire from him all year. He's making a difference on the field.
He had one of his biggest games last week, and it took. I know it might have been the second half when he made a play, and they said, we haven't really said his name much.
Yep.
This game so far, in the first half, but he had one of his biggest games last week, and he's someone that is always around the ball and someone that's at least getting a little bit of pressure because we don't get much.
That's. And real quick, Casey, like I said last week, ain't no one wants to see the dad bod, so no belly shirt today. I got my Husker gear on. But the slants for the curls killed us last night on D. Again, anybody that's watching film of our defense, they can pick us apart. And I was talking to one of my buddies about this, about the game yesterday and the night before, and we said, O'Connell's going to have a heyday with our defense because our corners don't cover very well. And I said, if we can get pressure on him, that's going to be the difference maker. But that's a big if because we don't see our defensive line really pushing through and getting that pressure on QBs. We haven't seen it all year. So
it's just frustrating because you'd think either you'd get pressure or you'd have good coverage, and we don't really have either.
Yep.
So we're kind of like, our guys are always like in no man's land. We can't get to the quarterback and we can't cover anybody. So hopefully that changes.
Absolutely. And yes, Mike, I think the loss would have been worse if Ross was still the head coach.
Yeah, probably.
And I said, and part of the reason why I mentioned that is because I think we would have been down 17 and a half if you weren't at the beginning of the show. We would have been down 17 and a half. I don't think we would have scored on our first drive in the second half. So I think we would have been in a bigger hole to come back from. So I do think it would have been a bigger point spread for the loss. Let's see. Thompson's gonna have to scramble more. Jason, absolutely. I think with Thompson, again, yeah, he's got to get outside the pocket. That's the thing.
That's the thing. Whether you run or not.
Yeah, and that's just something like he's a pure passer. I think he's got to get outside the pocket more, try to find that open route or open up another route. And I think some of our routes were not good. We had guys that were pulling up. They were covered one-on-one, and they're still in coverage, and they're still running the exact same route, turning around for the ball. Like, you're not going to get thrown to because
right.
You got a guy right on top of you. So
well, and we were talking about it too. I mean, it's great to have somebody like Trey Palmer. I mean, he has all these records. You know, he's most yards in the Big Ten.
Yeah.
You know, take your pick, go down the line. But I mean, Washington's shown a few flashes. He had some drops.
Yeah.
You know, not last night, but he's had drops throughout the season. There's not really another guy. I mean, every time there's a big play, it's number 3. So it'd be nice to see somebody. I mean, you know, we sling it to the tight ends a little bit here and there, but another big threat would be nice.
Yeah. Well, again, that's the thing. We don't. When he has time to throw the ball, it's being distributed to one guy. We don't have.
Even though he had so many catches, and he was still wide open. I don't know how they didn't start covering him more, but you would thought somebody else would have been open at some point.
I mean, Oliver Martin made a great 45-yard catch in the first half.
That was great.
Which that was great, hell of a catch. I mean, it was even tipped, and he put it right in his hands, and so great catch. You know, we need to give. I say this every freaking week is we need to give Oak like way more involved. 38 yards on 3 catches. Again, that's good, but let's get those catches up closer to 6, 7, 8 catches a game. I think it's going to make a big impact, especially when you're inside the 20. Try to find that tight end.
Yeah, I mean, 16 receptions, and only 7 of them were to Palmer.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
for 237 yards.
Yeah, Marcus Washington, Anthony Grant. You know, where's Ramir Johnson? He had one run for 17 yards.
And they threw to him at one point. I don't know if he dropped it or if it was behind him, but I was thinking we were going to see some more of him yesterday, and when he was out there, he looked quick, but still, I mean, we're not seeing much of him. Maybe just put him out there as a receiver.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what they're saying he was going to be anyway.
Yeah, I don't know.
Out of the backfield.
We're not seeing a lot of Alante Brown either.
Except wide open in the end zone in case he misses them.
Not as much as I thought we'd see him as far as him getting the ball thrown to him, but again, we had a change in coaching staff, so hopefully we continue to see some changes. But
and I mean, you can't be upset about somebody going 7 for 237 yards a touchdown and a 60-yard run. That would have been nice if he took it all the way to the house because we only ended up getting 3 on that. But having someone like that is great. So I'm not discrediting that, but it'd be nice to be able to. I mean, how many receivers did they throw to? You know what I mean? And and not only that, a walk-on running back go for as many yards as they did.
Yeah,
which is crazy.
S. Douglas here says that it makes the fall out much harder when you get your hopes up. QB missed a lot of throws, open receivers, looked like AM did. I said to someone yesterday, I'm like, dude, that first interception he threw in the first half, I mean, that was Adrian Martinez interception.
or Taylor.
I mean, he was eyeing that receiver, eyeing Vokalek the whole time, not looking ahead to where the defenders were, and the guy was just watching him. He's like, I know where you're going. I'm watching your eyes. And he threw it right to him.
Well, and that could go back to offensive line, too, which is one of the reasons why Martinez probably turned the ball over quite a bit, too, is offensive line. Not having time, so you're locked in on one guy because you're not having as much time to go through your progressions. But he was looking right at him through right. I mean, the receiver was wide open, but the guy was right in the lane and threw it right to him.
But I have seen a lot of that this year, too, from him. He does miss some passes.
He underthrew Palmer on the second interception he threw. It was a great jump up and catch, for the interception by the Purdue kid, but he underthrew him.
Yeah, and again, he's not an elite quarterback. He's not. He's good. He's got the long ball. He puts it in the basket a lot.
Yeah, he can throw it. You can sling it. It's just that's not really what we're used to.
Yeah. I
mean, we don't really want to throw the ball that much.
But
it's kind of fun, but it's also like you see the good teams, they can pound the rock, and that's what we need to get back to if we want to be good.
Yep, and the problem is we can't do that if we don't have an offensive line. So we got Anthony Grant, 11 carries for 35 yards. Like, that's awful.
I mean, he was going over 100 for the first 4 or 5 games of the season, and now we can't run the ball.
Yeah, Yant had 11 yards on 4
We're
carries.
playing Big Ten teams. I mean, we haven't even gotten to some of the better Big Ten teams that we're going to play, at least in the trenches.
Yeah. So it's tough because again, there's a this and there's also a that with a lot of things we're talking about because Casey can throw the ball. Yes, we want him to scramble more, but he's already getting hit in the pocket. He's getting hit outside the pocket when he does get outside the pocket because we don't have the line to block for him. So it's the same thing we've been talking about for the last couple of years. Our defensive line doesn't do well, and our offensive line doesn't do well. So if we don't have pressure on their quarterback, they're going to destroy our defenders because they're opening holes. They're going to run the ball. We don't have guys that can tackle.
Or their quarterback's got time to be able to throw. And one-on-one is very hard when the quarterback's got a lot of time.
Yep. So there's a lot.
We were playing man defense, and they were picking us apart.
Yeah. So again, I think there's still a lot of good things to take away from the loss, but it's tough because you see these things and you hope they're working on them in practice and in film room to improve. I do think that our November schedule is tougher now than I think it was supposed to be. Illinois is kind of a surprise.
That's going to be a tough game in 2 weeks.
Minnesota,
we have a week off before that.
Minnesota, I would
looked pretty
say,
good early, but they kind of looked a little bit lackluster the last couple of weeks.
I would say I'm not too worried about them, but it's still Big Ten play. They're still bigger and better than us in the trenches, and that's where I worry.
Exactly.
But they're not a great team, so neither are we. So it'll depend on who comes out playing better and who prepares better, as most games do.
I mean, Wisconsin lost again yesterday to Michigan State, overtime or double overtime, whatever it was. Iowa had the week off. I mean, these teams that we played down the stretch, I mean, at this point in time, I'd say it's a toss-up. I mean, it just depends on how we show up, what adjustments we make in-game, before and after, and, just kind of, if we still have that fight, I think we win a couple of those games that we probably wouldn't have won in the past couple of years.
Ryan asked about, how much change should we expect in a short amount of time? Yeah, we're Husker fans, of course,
Right.
so we want
every
change
win
like
for
that.
this point of the season. I mean, the season's a wash, right? I mean, you can say it like that or not. I mean, Mickey's coaching to hopefully coach for a head coaching job.
Well, we still have a chance at a bowl game. That's not out the window.
And the players are still playing for themselves, their teammates, their friends, their family, their school, but also for they want to be here next year. They want to whoever the next coach is, they've got to play well enough so that when that coach comes in, they still get playing time.
Yeah.
So, I mean, every win that we get from here on out is just, I'm happy with it.
Yep, absolutely.
Whether a 1 point win over Rutgers or whatever it is.
Yeah, absolutely. And to that point, how much did we expect? I think my expectations is being met right now just with the fight from the team.
Yeah.
The overall attitude of the guys when they get on the field, when they're playing, they're fighting back. They're not giving up.
Just not giving up. That's what I was gonna say.
We've seen heads down. We've seen people sulk on the sideline. We're seeing coaches talking to the players. We're seeing coaches get mad at players, and whether they do something good or bad. We're seeing coaches having those conversations on the sidelines, which again we talked about last week. I think even the week before that's just not something we've seen so much from Frost and Shenander. Is that communication going on during the game? Those in-game conversations need to happen to inspire your team.
Or even you get an interception or you block another punt. I mean, how many punts have we blocked?
We got 3 punt blocks this year, which I think we had maybe 3 in the last 7 years.
Yeah. So. And they go to the sidelines. The guys are jumping on. The coaches are coming over, and they're all excited. I mean, that's what I want to see. That's how I would play well with a coach like that. I don't want a coach that's just going to stand there and be the same way, whether it's good, bad, whatever. So I didn't expect much of a change, but what we've seen so far, I like. I mean, we haven't played awesome. We haven't won all of the games, but Mickey's 2-2, and that's better than Frost was.
There you go.
And we played tougher teams.
Yeah, I think. I like the fight. I just hope it continues. I hope the guys don't give up, and they continue to fight. Hopefully, get a few more wins under the belt.
Get a bowl game. That'd be cool.
Yeah. So nothing's impossible here. So, So Ronnie's talking about first half scoring. our opponents have 61 points. We got 31. I mean, I saw someone else post that earlier as well. Yeah, it's not good. I don't want to be a second half team. I want to be a 4 quarters team.
Yeah.
And that's not something we can continue down the road. We have to start good. We have to end good. And you're right. Making a 1-score game at one of your last drives doesn't necessarily mean it was a competitive game. We've seen some of those games on just other teams. Like they score. It's like, oh, we only lost by 3, but yeah, you scored in the last 30 seconds of the game. Or last minute of the game, whatever it is, and you didn't really, wasn't that good of a game.
It wasn't as close of a game as it seemed.
So yeah, I don't disagree with that, Ryan, not at all. But yeah,
I mean, I'd rather, I guess, be a second half team than a first half team, and then not score much in the second. But like you said, I'd rather just be a 4 quarters team.
Yep. Well, and everybody knows this. You have to be good in all 3 phases of the game. Right now, we're okay on offense. We're not good on defense, and we're good.
Improved on special teams.
Much improved,
if not pretty good.
I mean, that block punt was awesome. The
Yeah.
problem is we only got 3 points.
And
That's again, having a good or great offense is going to get you 7 on the board, and having that block punt that really swung momentum. We get 3 instead of a touchdown.
Well, and that was it just goes to show you, good teams will take advantage and they'll put up 6.
Yep.
I mean, Rutgers should have scored a touchdown when they blocked a punt on us last week, and they didn't because they're not a good team, and they settled for 3, and it ended up being the difference in the game.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Well,
anyway, go on.
Well, then I believe after that block punt we get 3. I think they came down and got 3. They might have got a touchdown. I can't remember. But then we threw an interception. So again, another swing of momentum. That's bad.
Right.
And so we have to continue that momentum, keep that momentum, and not have those errors in the game that are going to cost us. And that was a big difference. I mean, that's those swings of momentum in a game. When you have a chance to strike and get better, and get closer, or even tie the game, whatever it might be, and then you make a mental mistake by throwing that bad interception. That's on the quarterback. That is 100% something that he needs to improve on. And in-game adjustments are going to be huge. I still think we're not making in-game adjustments until second half. That's a halftime adjustment. I want to see in-game adjustments in the first half. Again, being outscored 61-31 in the first half is not something that gets you to win games. I don't want to play from behind all the time. I want to get a lead, get up by 10, get up by 17, whatever it means, and hold the lead throughout the game. I don't care if the other team starts to come back. As long as we hold the lead and we win the game and continue to score points.
And 31 points in the first half in 7 games is not very good. I mean, that's 4.5 points a game.
Yeah, it's not good.
That's not good at all.
Yeah. So, and Ronnie, it is actually 3 punts blocked this year. So, again, 2, 3, it's still better than what we've been doing. You see, and again, we made a couple field goals yesterday, a 43-yard field goal. We have a field goal kicker, we have a punter.
Yeah. We
have guys that can do things on the special teams, and that was going to be a bright spot this year. And it really has been for the most part. We've had a couple blocked punts, or a couple punts blocked on our side of the ball too. But overall, our special teams is much improved. But we only have really one good phase, and that's our special teams. The other 2, need a lot of work.
It's been like that for years, where one will be good one week, and the other one is just abysmal. And then the next week they flip, and it's like, can't we get on the same page for a game where everybody's good and, like the Northwestern game last year.
Yeah.
We won 56-7. I mean, an opponent that, since we joined the Big Ten, has been a 1-score game almost every single year. And, that was just all the stars aligned that night, I guess. But we have not had one of those in a while other than that. And it'd be nice to see something like that happen against, an Illinois or Minnesota or Wisconsin or an Iowa.
Yeah.
Maybe in Michigan.
Yeah.
And maybe we can win in the Big House.
Yeah, Mike, being outscored in the first half, coach didn't do a good job preparing the team for games. I don't think our coach has done a good job preparing our team for games in a long time because we haven't really done great in the first half for quite a while. I haven't really been a first half team since I can remember, but
it's funny.
I think that's a big piece of it.
I think they get us ready for the start of the game. It's like we score and we get a stop, or we stop and get a score, and then after that it's like that was what they planned for.
Yeah.
And then it's like, all right, what are we gonna do now? And they start over, and it's like, no, that's not how it should be.
Yeah.
You need to build off that. It can't just be, we're gonna do everything we can to go up early and get a stop, and then try to figure it out from there. That's how I feel.
Yeah, exactly. And just like what I was just gonna say, Ronnie, is we'll start the first drive, we'll score, and then we got nothing after that. So again, to Jimmy's point, it's like we prepare for our first drive or two, and then after that, it's like, all right, we don't adjust. Their defense adjusts to us.
We change what was working, or whatever.
Yeah.
Or they make adjustments and we can't, so we can't. We run the ball early and then we can't run the ball anymore.
Yep.
Or, well, Casey had time, but now every single play they have pressure. I mean, that's in-game adjustments that we don't make.
Yeah, and so again, game prep, big piece of it. So
Yes.
what are you doing? What are you doing while you're watching? You're watching the other team. So you're watching Purdue and their defense. What are they doing? What kind of schemes are they running? So you're going to prepare for that to come out in the game. Boom, they're doing something different. They adjust to your offense, and then on the reverse side, our offense doesn't adjust. We just decide to keep doing what we're doing. This is what we prepared for, while they're making adjustments on the other side of the ball that we didn't prepare for. And so we just keep going what we're prepared for and not doing those in-game adjustments. And I think that's ultimately hurting us. And that's, again, to Mike's point, how much preparedness is there before the game? I don't know. It could just be the first couple plays, first couple possessions, and then after that, we're just not making those adjustments.
Well, and I mean, you can definitely throw that on Frost, but you can throw that on Mickey a little bit right now, but not really, because this is his first time doing this. And I mean, yeah, he's coached, but being that head guy, he's still learning what to do.
I think that's where he's got to lean in on Whipple a lot.
And he probably is. We didn't have nearly as many penalties yesterday as we have in the last few games.
Yep.
So, I mean, that was something that we fixed. But it's like we fixed one thing, but then something that was working doesn't work anymore. So we focus on certain things that we did wrong, but we don't continue to build on things that we did right.
Yep.
So everything's not all coming together. It's
this and that, right?
Yeah, that's what you said, and that's exactly right.
Yeah. So that's a good point, Mike. And that's I think you gotta look at that, and you gotta look at Mickey. You gotta look at Whipple. Whipple's got way more experience coaching an offense than Mickey does. So they have to rely on each other as a coaching staff, and I think they got to get on each other as a coaching staff too. Is what are we doing to make these changes on defense? What are we doing on offense? And speak up in that film room as to what they need to do for the next game. And again, we're not there, so we don't know what's happening. But
right.
I would hope that they do a good job prepping for the game. Again, I think it's more of those adjustments once the defense changes their scheme. What are we doing in our defense as well? Once the offense is doing something different that maybe we didn't see on film, how are we adjusting defensively? And we know we don't make a lot of adjustments.
And I know this kind of sounds pretty negative, but I am actually pretty excited to see how the rest of the season plays out. I mean, I know that we're saying a lot of this and that and whatever, but when the game starts and we get going and we maybe fall down and come back, whatever, it feels more fun than it did the first few games of the season, and honestly the last few years really. We're not there as far as a good football team, but it's more fun to watch, I guess.
Yeah, so to Mike's point, you say you don't dislike Mickey, you just don't get the hype. I mean, honestly, I don't know that he's head coach material. I really don't. At this point, I would say no.
Right, and we've been kind of saying that over the last couple of weeks, or I've been kind of like, I mean, let him play the season out. It's his team to coach right now.
Yep.
But
my biggest thing, and Jimmy and I talked about, was just the energy that the team has around the season right now. I mean, we've seen
the fight that they have for him. I mean, that's really it. He's brought something out of these guys that Frost wasn't able to, and I like that so far.
Yeah.
Is he the future head coach of this football team? I don't think so.
No.
But I hope he sticks around.
I hope he does. If the next coach comes in and wants him, he's there. He's got a spot on the team. It's not going to be Urban running there. I said Urban's not in the running for the coaching job. I don't think he's talked to him. Someone asked earlier about, has anybody been talked about. We don't want to touch on it too much because we don't know, and everyone else is talking about it.
Well, and there's been, a month since, and every coach that got brought up has lost a game, or has not looked good, or there's a problem with, or, at this point in time, any coach that we're going to pick is going to get crucified.
And obviously, Matt Rule gets fired from Carolina, and everyone's like, "Oh, Matt Rule, big chance for a Nebraska job." I'm like, since when? I don't know. Again, is he a good college coach? We saw what he can do in college. He was terrible with Carolina. Didn't have a lot of time with Carolina, but again, the NFL, they're a little more cutthroat than a lot of colleges. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't care right now. I just want to see how the rest of the season goes.
I care in the long run, but not right now.
Yeah, it's too early because if it's going to be another college coach, we're not going to know for another 6 weeks, 7 weeks at least. If it's going to be another guy, we probably again still won't know until the season's over. So until then, you can take a look at whatever you want for what the media's saying and Paul Chryst.
Who's right and who's wrong?
Paul Chryst is open. Bielema might go back to Wisconsin. Who knows? Chryst is a good coach. Apparently, Wisconsin done a lot of good things over the years. So, honestly, right now it's just there's a lot of unknowns with what's going to happen next year, which we'll see. But other than that, I really don't have anything to say about coaching because you can read all that you want and they're going to throw names out. Matt Campbell was a name out there. I don't want Matt Campbell. I think he's a pretty mediocre.
How many win-loss, one possession loss that they had so far?
I don't know if he'd be the answer for Nebraska.
Most, if not all, and some of their wins were one possession wins. It's tough. So.
Yeah, so I don't know. I just at this point I don't care. I just want to see what we can do the rest of the season. Hopefully get a few more wins. Hopefully get to 6 wins, get a bowl game. That'd be fantastic. But yes, we do need a Big Ten caliber coach, someone that understands not only the Big Ten football, but we need somebody that understands recruiting in the trenches. Yeah. We gotta get bad guys on the offense.
And I know people are like, oh, you can't recruit to cold weather states. Well, most of the other teams in the Big Ten sure can, and on the offensive and defensive line. Yep. Michigan, Ohio State, the big dogs, Penn State, but Wisconsin's been able to do it. Iowa's been able to do it. Even the other teams in our division. Illinois is winning games. They're 6-1 already.
Yeah.
It's not as hard as it sounds. So.
Yeah. So, Mike, I assume you're talking about Paul Chryst and the fan base turning on him. The whole Wisconsin thing was kind of just. I was shocked. I didn't see that happening. They've had
the middle of the season.
They've had a couple of down years, if you will, but Wisconsin is still a hard-nosed Big Ten team, and they bring in Graham Mertz, who they thought was the next coming of our savior.
For one game.
For one game, he threw against Illinois to wide open receivers. Like he's the best thing around since we've. No, he's not. He's not good. So they don't have a good quarterback, and. But again, to Mike's point, that is a good example of a fan base turning on a good coach, we see it across the country all the time. So, I don't know. I think it'll be interesting to see what happens with Paul Chryst. He's going to get another job. Someone's going to look at him, and why not someone in the Big Ten? I don't see why he wouldn't if you got an opening.
Especially if you look at somebody like Bielema. He went to Arkansas and it didn't work out, so he went to Patriots or. NFL, offensive line coach or whatever it was, and gets another chance, and he's making the best of it in year 2. So, seems like a lot of teams in our division have been able to do that, except for us, like Minnesota and Illinois, teams that have been pretty bad for a long time, and now they've gotten coaches in that are making it work. We don't like the bald guy up there, but and they're not having as good of a year as it looked at the start, but he's still somebody that's gotten them going. And one thing that, like you said earlier, that scares me is there are guys in the trenches. He's recruiting guys that are big up front, and that help you win some games in this league. So.
Yep. So don't want to make the same mistake that we made with Bo. When Bo won as interim coach, and complete mismatch. Now again, if Mick wins, I don't know. Again, I think Trev. I think Trev Alberts knows what he wants. He's probably watching very closely. He's probably at practices. He's going to be talking to the coaching staff, I think, because we know football is our biggest moneymaker. Volleyball is right behind it, and basketball somehow is probably right behind that. So I don't know how much stock Trev is putting in Mickey as an interim coach. I don't know. As a fan, even if we go 6-6, I don't know if Mickey's the guy.
I know a lot of fans on social media love Mickey, but I think it's kind of just the same thing that we've talked about. It's just him getting the boys up and going, or
Yeah.
them wanting to fight for him, at least harder than they have over the last several years. So, I mean, that's cool, but I don't know that he's the guy.
Great guy, great coach, but head coach, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And, maybe, we'd like to keep him around as, receivers coach, recruiting.
We'd be done to
whatever.
get rid of him as a.
And I'm sure we will, but, maybe maybe some smaller level school, maybe not next year, but maybe the year after that, or, somewhere beyond, ends up taking a chance on him as a head coach, and maybe he works his way up and ends up being pretty good down the line.
You never
I
know.
just don't know that he's there right now.
Yeah, I mean he's only been head coach for 4 games, so yeah. I don't put a lot of stock into him. I really don't. I really would be surprised if he's our next head coach. I think that'd be a huge shock, and I think majority of Husker Nation would probably agree that he's not going to be the head coach next year. Again, I think we're going to go out and get somebody with experience. We want to win. We don't want an experiment as our next head coach.
Well,
we want somebody who is a winner, someone who knows how to coach in the Big Ten and knows how to recruit big guys to help win games. And Mickey's not that guy.
Well, and a perfect example is take a look at Tennessee. I mean, how many coaches have they gone through? They even hired Greg Schiano, and then Twitter got him fired within 3 hours or whatever it was. And then they go ahead and get Josh Heupel, and I didn't know if that was really going to work out because he was all right at UCF, but it was kind of like Frost. He kind of acquired a lot of good talent in that area, and he was able to kind of make it work. It wasn't even as good as Frost was necessarily. I mean, Frost was only there for a short time, but so was he, and then he bounced and went to Tennessee, and now they're beating Alabama.
Yeah,
they're going to be I'm sure the rankings have already come out, but they're top 5 team now, I'm sure, and playoff bound potentially team.
Yeah.
So they've been struggling for just about as long as we have, maybe about the same, 97.
Probably, yeah.
They've had their ups and downs like we have, but they're on top now. Why can't we do that?
Yep. So I think we gotta have a coach with experience. I don't think we can have an experiment. Hopefully this guy comes into his own as a head coach for the first time ever type thing, and it's kind of what we're doing now, just as an interim, of course. But I don't want that to continue into a full season, full prepping, full recruiting for a guy who's never done it before, because that's not how we're gonna win games.
Yeah.
In my opinion, but again, I like him.
Any win we get this year is going to be I'm going to take, but down the line, a 14-13 win over Rutgers is not a win that we're going to want.
No.
If we want to be competitive across the country. So.
Yep.
Anyway.
If we want to compete for championships, we got to do more.
Yeah.
So, all right, guys. I don't got anything else. Appreciate everyone joining in today. Ryan, Micah, Ronnie, Ross, saw you guys on here. Casey and Kara, saw you guys hop in for a little bit. Appreciate you being on.
We got a bye next week, so
enjoy your weekend next week.
Yeah, I probably will.
Watch all the other college football. This is probably the most exciting time of year for sports.
It is. Hockey started as raised the banner the other night. It was awesome.
NHL, college hockey, you got NFL, you got college football, you got postseason baseball.
Yeah.
It is the best time of year right now, so enjoy it.
Yeah, for sure. I can't remember what I was going to say. Enjoy it. No,
all right, guys. Again, I'm Matt.
I'm Jimmy.
We are Two Average Guys. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Go Cowboys. Have a good one.
We'll see you next time.